Mount Everest, standing at an astonishing 8,848 meters, is the pinnacle of the Earth, the ultimate test for mountaineers. It's a place of extraordinary beauty, but it's also a place of danger and sometimes of tragedy. Today, we delve into one of Everest's darkest days, the 1996 disaster that claimed 8 lives in a single day. Every year, climbers from all over the world arrive at Everest, each with a singular dream to conquer this towering peak. In 1996, the mountain was as busy as ever. 2 teams in particular caught the world's attention. Adventure Consultants, led by Rob Hall, a New Zealander, was known throughout the mountaineering community for his meticulous planning and commitment to safety. A seasoned climber, Hall had reached the summit of Everest 5 times before, a remarkable achievement. His reputation was built on his careful attention to detail, his rigorous preparation, and his unwavering commitment to the well-being of his clients. Hall believed in the value of slow, steady acclimatization, and was conservative in his decision-making. His clients were often high-altitude novices, and he was passionate about providing them with a safe and successful experience. Hall's leadership style reflected his belief that the mountains were not to be underestimated and that safety, above all else, was paramount. The second team was Mountain Madness. Ed by Scott Fisher, an American, had a different style. Known for his easygoing personality and remarkable physical strength, Fisher was a charismatic figure who inspired those around him. His reputation was built on his fearlessness, his physical prowess, and his ability to push his body to its limits. Fisher's approach to climbing was more flexible and adaptive. He believed in the ability of his clients to rise to the challenge of Everest and was less strict about enforcement of rules and protocols. Fisher was known to say, "We've got the big E figured out, we've built a yellow brick road to the summit." His leadership style reflected his belief in the spirit of adventure, the thrill of pushing boundaries, and the joy of standing on top of the world. Despite their differences, both Hall and Fisher shared a deep passion for the mountains and a profound respect for Everest. They were leaders in their field, admired by their peers and looked up to by their clients. Their loss left an indelible mark on the mountaineering community and brought home the stark reality of the dangers of high-altitude climbing. The climbers on these expeditions were as varied as the landscapes they hailed from, each bringing a unique set of motivations, dreams, and experiences to the slopes of Everest. They were not professional mountaineers, but everyday individuals who shared an extraordinary goal. Doug Hansen, a postal worker from Seattle, was a testament to the idea that passion, rather than profession, defines a climber. With the dream of standing atop the world's highest peak, Doug was making his second attempt at Everest with Rob Hall's team. The previous year, he had come heartbreakingly close, but had to turn back just a few hundred meters from the summit due to exhaustion. His determination to reach the summit was fueled by the desire to prove that an everyday person could achieve extraordinary feats. Beck Weathers, a pathologist from Texas, had an ambition that extended beyond Everest. He was chasing the dream of conquering the 7 summits, the highest mountains on each of the 7 continents. Yasuko Namba, a businesswoman from Japan, was another climber with the goal of completing the 7 summits. Despite her petite stature, Namba was a giant in the world of mountaineering. At the age of 47, she had already climbed 6 of the 7 summits, and was hoping to complete her journey with Everest. In each climber's story, we see a reflection of the human spirit, the drive to test our limits and the ambition to reach new heights. On Everest, they were united by a shared dream, a common goal that transcended borders and backgrounds. On May 10th, both teams made their push for the summit, but unexpected delays, a bottleneck at the infamous Hillary Step, and deviations from fixed ropes led to several climbers reaching the summit late into the afternoon, well past the recommended turnaround time. Doug Hansen, a client in Rob Hall's team, reached the summit late in the afternoon, well past the generally agreed-upon turnaround time of 2 p.m. On the descent, Hansen ran out of supplemental oxygen and became unable to proceed. Rob Hall stayed with him to try to bring him down the mountain. Later that night, Hall radioed base camp and said that Hansen had died and that he himself was in trouble. On May 11th, the blizzard, which had been predicted by some forecasters, hit Mount Everest, stranding several climbers in the death zone, the name given to areas above 8,000 meters, where the human body cannot acclimatize and deteriorates rapidly. Meanwhile, other climbers were facing their struggles. Yasuko Namba and Beck Weathers, from the Adventure Consultants team, had collapsed on the South Col, unable to move. Sewang Samanla, Sewang Paljor, and Dora Morup, part of an Indian climbing team, were caught in the open during the storm and perished. Scott Fisher, from the Mountain Madness team, had also made the summit late and was extremely exhausted on his descent. He eventually collapsed, and despite efforts from his climbing Sardar, head Sherpa, Tendi Sherpa, and another team member, could not be rescued. On May 12th, after spending a night in the open during the storm, Beck Weathers managed to regain some strength and walk to Camp 4. He and the gravely ill Yasuko Namba were later evacuated by a daring high-altitude helicopter rescue. Namba, however, did not survive. The bodies of Rob Hall and Doug Hansen were found later but couldn't be recovered due to the dangers involved. The same was true for Scott Fisher and Sewang Paljor. As for the events of the disaster, multiple factors contributed to the tragic outcome. These included overcrowding and over-commercialization, failure to set fixed ropes, decision to continue past the established turnaround time, and some questionable decisions by guides. Notably, a bottleneck of climbers accumulated towards the summit due to the fixed ropes not being set, causing delays and pushing the climbers past the established turnaround time of 2 p.m. As a result, climbers descended right into an incoming storm. After the storm, the focus turned to rescue operations. Helicopters flown by daring pilots, experienced climbers from other expeditions, Sherpas, and even members from the Indian and Taiwanese teams joined forces to bring down those who were still up the mountain. It was a global effort in the face of a shared tragedy. Survivors faced a long road to recovery. Some had lost limbs to frostbite. Others grappled with the psychological trauma of surviving such a disaster. But amid the pain and loss, there were stories of extraordinary human spirit. Makalu Gao, the leader of a Taiwanese expedition, was found by his team in a state of severe frostbite and hypothermia. His rescue is considered one of the most remarkable survival stories of high-altitude mountaineering. Beck Weathers, left for dead by his team, somehow regained consciousness and stumbled back to camp. His survival, against all odds, became one of the most incredible stories of the disaster. Anatoly Bukriv, a guide in the Mountain Madness team, was criticized in Krakauer's book for decision to ascend and descend alone without guiding any climbers, leaving his team to descend slowly with little help. However, he was also one of the only climbers in Camp 4. Bukriv defended his decisions and later wrote his own account of the events, arguing that his actions saved lives because he had enough energy to assist in the rescue during the storm. In total, 8 climbers died on May 10th and 11, 1996, from several teams, making it one of the deadliest days in the history of Everest up to that point. The disaster highlighted the dangers of commercial expeditions and the potential risks of having too many climbers on the mountain at once. But the scars of the tragedy remain. The climbers who lost their lives on the mountain are remembered for their courage and the passion that led them to the top of the world. In the end, Everest, the mountain they both loved and respected, proved to be their final challenge. Their stories serve as a reminder of the dichotomy of Everest, a place of extraordinary beauty that holds within it an element of inherent danger.